And we are live.
There you go. The Big Pat, PA announcer echo. That's what we got live tonight on the show. We'll be talking about the game where the Hornets are able to come back after an abysmal first quarter, and we'll lead off with LaMelo's comments speaking after the injury for the first time in a while. That's all tonight on Locked On Hornets.
We're Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
Hornets. Okay, I can only do that once. The baby's asleep. Sorry, producer Katie.
Sounds dirty. I didn't know what you were doing at the very beginning, but Doug is turned on by a Hornets victory tonight against
as the kids
Indiana
say.
Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen. It's Locked On Hornets. We're free and available anywhere you get your pods, and that includes YouTube, where we are going live. Sometimes we've been doing this a lot more recently after games. Sometimes we're not ready to go in the morning, and so we've been doing it after the games, and the Charlotte Hornets won this one. It's not like we planned on the Hornets winning. We thought, all right, we'll just go ahead and rap a little bit about it.
You would be insane to plan on the Hornets winning.
That's correct, but it always works out. When they do, we have a little bit more of a fun show. So they win 115-109. We'll get to that in just a moment. But first, I have to tell you to follow me on Twitter at Walker Mail. Check me out on WFNZ Sports Radio 92.7 FM. And that is Doug. You can find his Substack, Every Hornets Boxscore, on his website, everyhornetsboxscore.com. We'll get to this win in just a moment. Still feels like LaMelo Ball needs to lead off the first show of the week, especially with him speaking about his injury and some of the process he's going through his rehab after missing close to 30 games this season. It's been a lot for LaMelo. He's missed them intermittently, right? He would come back, then he'd go out again, he'd come back, and now he's been out for good for quite some time. So Rod Boone of the Charlotte Observer had quite a few questions for him, and he said it's been tough. It's been annoying to go through it, but he's still alive, which is true, and that's a great attitude to have if you're LaMelo Ball. I'm still alive, so you can't really be too mad. Quote, just go through the rehab and that whole process and try to come out on top. So that's how he's doing with the injury. Where did you want to take it with some of the other comments that he had, Doug?
I love that philosophy too. He must be a big reader of Marcus Aurelius. It's very in that sort of stoic philosophy. You know, just understand how small you are and be glad to be alive. So love that from Ball. I think there are a couple things that we could talk about here. He does feel like that the previous injuries were a factor, even though the other ankle injuries were on the left ankle. He fractures the right ankle. But here's the quote: "I feel like I wasn't at the best strength," Ball said. "I probably should have sat out to get it right, but just got to get it stronger. You know, it's one of those things. We play 80-something games, get strong, get right, get back out there." And even though the other three ankle injuries were on the left ankle, there was still some indication that he was feeling something on that right ankle before he fractured it. And but, look, he does love to play basketball, and he wants to get out there, and he wanted to help this team win. It would have been nice to have LaMelo Ball for the rest of the season, even if the season was lost. Because you could have started to develop some things for next season. So I think Ball felt some pressure to be out there. But I think ultimately that was his decision. And I don't think he said anything here that would indicate that it was him being pressured to be out there. I think he wanted to be out there.
Well, I mean, he totally talked about it from that angle. We know about that angle from what Rod Boone was talking about in the middle portion of the season when we were all waiting for LaMelo to come back. And we were getting to about a month's worth of time. And we were all, okay, when is LaMelo going to return to the court? And it was all about when LaMelo deemed it right for himself. And that's how he sounds here with just the direct quote from LaMelo. "I feel like I wasn't at the best strength. I probably should have sat out to get it right, but just got to get it stronger. It's one of those things. We play 80-something games, get strong, get right, get back out there." Totally from the angle of his own power, deciding when he should come back, when he shouldn't. And maybe he feels a little regret. Feels like a regretful statement given how he's about to miss 30 games. And you don't want to say, LaMelo Ball is regretting going out there and giving it his all, but just understanding, man, sometimes you do need to rest in order for me to save what I have at the end of the season. And so I don't, look, I don't know what's going through LaMelo's mind, but those comments, it was just kind of interesting. I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, he has big dreams. He has big goals. And you wonder how much missing that time in his rookie season was weighing on him. Like, I don't want to miss, this much time this early in my career. What does that mean? So I think they're, who knows? Who knows what was going through his mind? But one wonders if that was a little bit of a factor. We do have a question here in the chat from Amber. Do y'all think LaMelo needs to get more muscle mass to help with these recurrent injuries? Yeah, he has a quote in this Rod Boone article. It might be a little tongue-in-cheek. I don't know. This is from the article. In the meantime, it's more of his daily calcium intake to build up physical fortitude. And here's the quote from LaMelo. I drink a lot of milk, Ball said. I ain't going to lie. I hated milk, but my pops always had us drinking milk to keep your bones strong. So cookies and milk every night.
Oh, I wouldn't be on that training program.
I don't know if that's going to build muscle mass. It might just build regular mass.
Well,
Actually,
wait,
I know it will. I can attest to it. I'm evidence of it.
So does milk and cookies, does that include the Ben & Jerry's pint flavor? Because if that's the case, my bones are as strong as anything. If that's the case, I love that training program. Please, Joe Sharp, just give me the milk and cookies, baby. All of that stuff. I want all of it in order to make sure my bones are strong. I've heard this question quite a bit too on WFNZ, by the way. Like, I don't know. I think it's easy to say that LaMelo is scrawny out there. Definitely really a skinny basketball player. But I don't know if that necessarily means that that's why he's suffering these ankle injuries. It's not like the ankle injuries in particular were a problem his first 2 years in the league. We can go back to the freak accident stuff. Is Shaq going to, have his ankle hurt if PJ Washington lands on it on an awkward way? Maybe not Shaq, but maybe somebody that's, 30 pounds heavier, right? Like the freak accidents, I feel like a lot of different ankles from different muscle statures would have been hurt. So I'm not sure if that's the reason I'm pointing to. We can just under the umbrella say he needs to get stronger, period, just because that's some of the younger players in the league. A lot of them need to do that, but I don't know if that's the reason that he sprained his ankles.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he does need to get stronger. I think it would help him absorb some of this contact and maybe get him to the free throw line a little bit more. But I'm not an expert, in terms of the ankle injuries to wonder if that would help. Now, they did in the article mention, is he going to wear some kind of, extra protection there around the ankles? And from Ball's perspective, it's too early to tell, essentially. He's got to go out there, whenever he's ready to give it. It sounds like he's going to be ready for, next training camp. So that's good news. We got some good news there. But, he's got to figure it out. And the other thing is, you always have to be careful when you're talking about putting on more weight and more muscle mass, because sometimes that can actually lead to other injuries, because now your body has to adjust to different things that are going on. We saw that with Emeka Okafor early in his career, tried to put on a bunch of muscle, and it ended up resulting in really an unfortunate shortening of his career. So, I think it's difficult to say. I will say on the milk and cookies thing, look, he's setting a bad example for the children out there. I just wish he really would.
It's true.
Think about the children. You're an example. I put this on the same level as Ja, honestly.
Wow. There you go. Please aggregate that. Somebody. We've been aggregated one time where it took off. I hope that is the second time. Locked On host says LaMelo Ball, milk and cookies training regimen, exactly
just
like Ja Morant.
I'm trying to raise a kid here. A kid always wants cookies. And I'm trying to say, no, we got to eat some fruit. And, you got LaMelo on here, milk and cookies every night. Wow.
Yeah, LaMelo does. Yes. I don't even know where to go with that Ja Morant thing. I hope that doesn't get aggregated.
I just need LaMelo. I think LaMelo's got to sit down in a weird room with Jalen Rose and get this whole thing figured out.
It wasn't my cookie. I promise. It wasn't mine. I was just holding it.
Whose cookie was it? Listen, it wasn't my cookie.
I didn't bring it on the plane. So, that's why I sat down with Adam Silver. I told him about it, and all right, we need to leave that alone. Let's go to the last comment here from LaMelo about the next steps for him and being in Charlotte, because we know he's eligible for a rookie extension this offseason. He's going to make a lot more money if he agrees to that extension here with the Charlotte Hornets. We have every reason to believe that the Hornets are going to offer every single penny that they can to LaMelo, because that's just good business. And LaMelo said, when he was asked about whether he was enjoying his time here, he said, "Yeah, I love it here," which is news, and it's not news at the same time. And it's only news, Doug, because everybody tries to bring him out of Charlotte as much as they possibly can and send him all the way across the country and go to LA because he's an LA guy. That's how his character is. He's also from LA. But LaMelo has told you a million times over that he loves it in Charlotte. He has spent his off seasons here as well. Like, he spends a lot of time in the city of Charlotte and tells you how much he likes it. So if you believe LaMelo, then LaMelo has done nothing to lead you astray from the fact that he loves the Queen City. There has not been, oh, wait, well, he liked a picture of LA on social media. Maybe he wants to go to this town. You know, he is embracing different players on different, none of that stuff. It's all been about how much he loves Charlotte. And so we'll see what happens when that extension is given to him.
I believe that he loves playing for this franchise right now at this moment. I believe that he's established a good relationship with Steve Clifford, and he obviously has some really close relationships with players who are currently playing on the team, and one particular player that is not, that may be playing for the team, and Miles Bridges. They're very close as well. So he has some solid relationships established. I believe that he enjoys suiting up for the Hornets. All of that being said, I'm with you on this as well. I don't think that it really matters. Ultimately, he does want to make the playoffs. If the Hornets can provide him the opportunity to do that year in and year out, then I think, and be possibly contend for an Eastern Conference Finals at some point and an NBA Finals, then I think Ball will continue to love being here. But if they can't do that, then I think he won't. Now, in terms of the first contract extension, I'm not sure that will matter right away. Because I think, the amount of money that he can make and earn, and, I think you especially have to think about that after all the wrist injury and the ankle injuries. I think he might be especially attuned to really maximizing that dollar value early on, because then you have plenty of time. After that first contract's up, if you've lived up to that contract, there's going to be a ton of teams that are going to be interested in you. And at that point, you can make your move.
Plus, odds will say that there is going to be someone that turns that down. That's true. At the same time, how many players are just going to agree to that? And then if they want to leave, force a trade, demand one, and then the team will give in because it just happens so frequently. I don't see any reason, unless you are hell bent on getting out of the organization that you play for as soon as possible. I don't see why you would turn down that kind of money. It makes no sense. There's just,
all I'm saying is, whoever it is, MJ, or if it's this
Rich Schnall or Rich Schnob. Yes,
Rich Schnob. Yeah, if it's Rich Schnob, I don't care who it is. Don't back up the Brinks truck. Back up the Chips Ahoy truck. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Just do what it takes. Get this man his cookies so we can all continue to watch him play.
Good question.
Basketball.
Is it Chips Ahoy or is it Oreos, you think? Which way? Both of them.
Well, for me, it's Chips Ahoy. I'm not a big Oreo guy. I'll eat them. I'll dunk them in milk. It's great. But Chips Ahoy, a good crispy Chips Ahoy. Sometimes you get the Chips Ahoy. They're a little stale, but you get every time I open it, it's like really a coin flip. Like, am I going to get a good batch? When it's crispy, when it's well done, Chips Ahoy all the way.
I haven't had Chips Ahoy in a while. Now I'm thinking about Chips Ahoy. All right, let's try to get back on track and take a quick break. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast. Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet. Let's get to this game. How about LaMelo? Yes, hopefully he can come back at some point, but hopefully we can see him in more wins like the Hornets got tonight against the Indiana Pacers, which was crazy given the first quarter that happened. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You can pick 2 to 6 players on this daily fantasy app and see how they score more or less than their PrizePicks projection. You can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. There's no competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available, and they offer projections on really any sport you watch. That includes the NBA, the NFL, MLB, men's and women's college basketball, tournaments going on in both sports right now, WNBA, NASCAR, cricket, disc golf, so many more. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. You have safe and fast withdrawals, currently operational in over 30 states and Canada, and you can download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users, they receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. If you deposit $100, they give you $100, $50, they give you $50. You get the idea. Don't forget to enter promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. A couple more segments to go. We're live. Locked On Hornets.
This is Locked On Hornets.
Golden State spent almost a minuscule amount of time with 0 of their starters out on the floor. They had at least one out there the entire time.
Have 4 Hall of Famers.
Yeah, they do. And so
you just put them anywhere.
You just have one out
Stack
there.
them up.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Got to go to this game as a fan tonight, and my girlfriend had tickets because she got them through work. And so with the big old boss hogs at her work, had some awesome tickets.
You cover the team. How is she getting tickets and you're not? You cover the team.
I didn't ask for them. Well, you know how it is. You know where you sit when you're in the media section. You're up, really you're kind of the divider of the front, or at least the bottom section. And then like the club level seats, I guess, towards the top, maybe not club level, but the suites, I should say, the suites. Well, anyways, they are smack dab in the middle of the halfway court or mid court. Why can't I talk? It's really smack dab in the middle, and you're just a few rows up. And the angle to watch basketball games, just sitting right there, is way different than where we usually get to see it. So it was really awesome to see. That was a lot of fun. And I got to tell you, it was ugly for the Hornets in the first quarter, where Miles Turner offensively just kept rolling to the basket, a whole bunch of rolls to the basket, would get fouled, would go to the free throw line, and would make every single free throw. He's 9 of 9. He scored 15 points immediately, scored 15 points in the first quarter, and Miles really put a hurting on the Charlotte Hornets. They would win that first quarter. Indiana did 40-22. And after that, Doug, Hornets just slowly but surely chipping away at that lead, and then you look up and the Hornets, they finally win at the very end. What did you make of this game?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they came out. They came out with, I think, enough energy, but they didn't come out with enough organization. I thought it honestly could have been a lot worse in that fourth quarter, and that's with them scoring 40 points and an almost 20-point lead going into the second quarter. But I thought it could have been a lot worse had Indiana made a few more shots at the end, because the Hornets couldn't guard without fouling. They were turning it over, and they were missing a ton of easy looks at the rim. DSJ couldn't buy a shot, and Terry and Kelly were forcing a lot of stuff up as well. So it wasn't looking good. Svi was, I don't know what Svi was doing in that first quarter, just like taking it up
Getting
super
blown
soft.
by TJ.
He looked like Sam Darnold seeing ghosts out there. Like, it was just crazy. Like, what was happening with Svi? I don't know. He would make it up later by knocking down a couple of three-point shots. And in the second quarter, they took a break and they got things going. I thought Kelly Oubre was amazing in this one, putting his head down. We've seen him do this all season. When he's on, he's on. It hasn't really been from the three-point line. It's been, getting fouled, defensive energy, ton of steals. He had three or four steals in this one. Terry Rozier, same kind of thing. When he picked up his energy defensively, that's really where the worm turned in this one. They stopped fouling on the defensive end, and they started stealing. And, I mean, they were turning those steals into easy points. And this team has to manufacture easy points, because if they get into a half-court battle, they cannot win a basketball game. If a team forces them into the half-court, they simply don't have the playmaking ability. No matter what combination of players that Steve Clifford throws out there, they do not have enough playmaking to really deal with even a below-average defense. So, but they didn't. They got out into transition, and then they got a little confidence, I thought, and then by the third and fourth quarter, they were able to knock down some tough shots to win this game. So, yeah, I mean, exciting one for the Hornets. It's tough. My feelings are a little mixed on this one, because I saw the Hornets, they had lost 4 in a row, had a good chance of losing 5 in a row to close out the homestand. That's obviously not great for the fans who are watching. But then I look at the Rockets and I'm like, hey, they won a couple of games. Oh, look at the Spurs. They just won a game. All of a sudden, the Hornets are only 2 games back from having the best odds at that number 1 pick. And then they decide to win this one. But good for team morale. Good for team morale.
I had given up hope on that for so much time now. I'm just like, whatever. Win the games. That's totally fine. I'm with you, right? If there was a chance, then yes. And I guess mathematically, but I had already checked out. Like, it's not a chance. So they win this game against Indiana. You brought up Svi real quickly. Like, Peter Pan, when Captain Hook yells Shmi all the time because Shmi has done something incoherent or incompetent, and Captain Hook continues to get mad at him. That's what I yell in my head when TJ McConnell blows by him for a layup. That's that Svi. I get mad at him, and then I yell at him like that, Svi, from Captain Hook. And that's what was going on in this game. It was unreal. And then, but at least Kelly Oubre, is able to score like he was, where you just basically had Terry Rozier and Kelly taking turns. All right, let's do the whole ISO thing. Terry helped them out in the second quarter, I believe it was, maybe third, but I think it was second. And then Kelly Oubre, same thing. The thing about Kelly, Doug, we've talked a lot about his attitude and how much fun it's been to watch somebody give a bleep playing basketball in moments where you're not playing for anything, right? Like, especially Kelly. Well, that's not true. He's playing for a contract, which is a lot. So I shouldn't say that. But at the same time, he's still pounding his chest. He is still picking up teammates.
His energy is awesome. Have you seen him shake his head?
The hair shake is great. I love the hair shake, and it doesn't matter. I love the going the other way sign. It is fantastic from Kelly. The attitude's been awesome, and he goes 10 of 17, 28 points, 5 of 9 from the free throw line, 3 of 7 from 3. So he's actually missed quite a few free throws tonight. But Doug, I wanted to look at just what he's done this month. Okay, so here's a good game from him against Indiana where he scores 28 points. He's averaging 24 since March 1st. He's doing so on 45% shooting, 36% three-point shooting, all good, right? Like real solid stuff. But he's actually getting to the foul line and shooting 6 free throws per game. And he was shooting over 90% on that kind of volume. I mean, he was knocking down every single one of them. Now, tonight, the percentage is going to dip, but I just think you've seen him be aggressive and be a pretty efficient basketball player when he starts to do the whole ISO thing. Yeah, I've really liked what we've seen from him here.
I've been pretty confident they were not going to bring him back. I'm less confident after the past couple of games. I mean, and ultimately, I think it's going to come down to, do they retain Steve Clifford? And then what's Steve Clifford's opinion of Kelly Oubre? And then how realistic do they feel like their chances of competing next season and getting to the playoffs? If they really want to make a push for it, you've got a guy in Kelly who is essentially begging to stay here. And if he can produce this way off the bench, which, I mean, we've seen that. He doesn't really have I think he ultimately wants to start. He's always wanted to start, but he's had no problem coming off the bench. And we've seen him have some really good bench performances. I thought at the beginning of this season that Cody Martin would ultimately become the sixth man, and the injuries have prevented that. But I think even if Cody Martin had been healthy, maybe Kelly Oubre would have continued to fight for that sixth man role. And now I really feel like Kelly, if they do bring him back, has solidified himself as the sixth man. I mean, this bench, I think they had 4 points at the half, the bench did, and 2 of them were from Thor, right at the end. So this bench desperately needs scoring. So, if they're looking to compete next season, then I think they would be silly at this point not to bring back Kelly, depending on the price and how it all works out financially. But you're right. And the crazy, the hair shake thing, it reminds me of that scene in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air where Will is trying to tell, I can't remember who he was counseling on what to do when you get in a fight, but he was like, just start shaking your head, get crazy, give him crazy eyes. I just feel like he does that a little bit to just intimidate folks. Yeah. I feel like the other team is looking at him like, what the hell's this guy doing? I'm scared of this guy a little bit.
There were a few times where Kelly shows you just the first round pick, oh goodness, he's extremely talented plays, where he almost threw down that windmill, almost going reverse jam. If he would have landed that, that would have been crazy. And in person, watching the highlights and then seeing it in person as close as I was this game, it's the closest I've been watching an NBA game in God knows how long. I mean, it's been forever. It's just so different watching these dudes. And Kelly, one of the bigger differences watching on television to getting as close as you can to the court. There was the one layup where I think he might have gotten fouled, but he, goes in the air, changes direction a few different times and is still able to finish. He's impressive, man. Just when he's driving and he's getting downhill, that is the best version of Kelly, and we've talked about that the last 2 years. But now that he's even getting to the free throw line and knocking down those shots, some really impressive athletic, acrobatic stuff that he almost finished. There was one he almost finished, and there was one that he did.
Chase on the chat points out that all of our starters had a positive plus-minus in this game. He's right. Gordon Hayward plus 26. He had some really great passes in this game. I thought finally you got an active Gordon Hayward game offensively. He has 15 shot attempts, thank God. And, only hits the 1 3. but he has the 5 assists. But I thought he really finally was moving the basketball without turning it over. He has turned the ball over so much over these past 4 losses, and he finally starts to move the basketball with some intention and not making these sort of dopey turnovers. He was plus 26, PJ was plus 19, Nick 18, Kelly 12, Terry 16, and then you look at the bench, DSJ minus 20.
It was a rough game for him. He was bad. He was real bad offensively.
Bryce McGowan's minus 5, Kai Jones minus 20, Svi was minus 11, Thor was minus 5. So yeah, whenever they broke the lineup, it was broken. And then the turnovers I mentioned earlier, Indiana had 22 of them for 35 Hornets points. That is a complete worm turn, because in the previous games, the Hornets did the same thing. They turned the basketball over and gave up more than a quarter's worth of points. They've done that a couple of times over the past 5 or 6 games. So the Hornets finally controlled the turnovers, and they were able to fight back and win in this game. And, again, yeah, I think the focus for the team right now is what can we learn in these 10 games? How can we get better in these 10 games? And I think that's the right attitude, and Clifford's preaching that right now. And this team has fought hard all season, and all you can hope is that, the mystical basketball gods will shine on them instead of these teams that are obviously tanking.
Yeah, 100%. Let's hope so. Let's also continue some of that conversation and just give our finishing thoughts.
We got a lot of comments and questions. I mean, a lot of people want to talk about Bouknight. We can talk about Bouknight here in a minute. Let's see. There's some other stuff in here as well. A couple of comments about LaMelo. So yeah, a lot to get to. We want to get to that before we get out of here.
So keep writing them in. Coming up next, Locked On Hornets.
Oh boy, I didn't hit the button soon enough. Here we go.
Okay, coming up next, Locked On Hornets. Now we're flowing smoothly, just as we always do. Keep writing those questions in, whatever thoughts that you have. We can finish up the night taking some of your thoughts and applying them to the show. Basically, you just doing our work for us, and we appreciate you for that. Let's talk about Nissan Aria. This episode is brought to you by Nissan. It's their most electric car that they have with Nissan Aria. And so now we're going to try to give the electric player of the week, who that could be. Only one game. We just talked about him. Kelly Oubre, you are the Nissan Aria of this game against the Pacers. And the reason being, not only because of the electricity that we just talked about, but I do think that he was brilliantly fierce in this one. I do think that he's fiercely elegant. In fact, I think that's a perfect way to describe Kelly Oubre. Fiercely elegant. That's what I want to describe Kelly Oubre as. And also the Nissan Aria, the 2023 Nissan Aria packs pin you to your seat power and premium intelligence all in one electric vehicle. The all new, all electric 2023 Nissan Aria, the EV for people who love to drive. Shop now at nissanusa.com. This episode is also brought to you by Built Bar. The Built March Madness bracket is here. We know you have a favorite bar or a favorite puff, and now's your time to make it count. Go to BuiltMarchMadness.com to vote for your favorites. And when you vote for your favorite bar or puff, you'll be entered into a drawing where 50 lucky Locked On listeners will get a free box of Built Bars. Not only that, but Locked On fans can also get a 12-month subscription to Built to have Built's best bars or puffs delivered monthly straight to your door. That's incredible. You got to go try Built Bar. Built, the best protein bar ever. They're amazing, covered in 100% chocolate, high in protein, low in sugar, high in fiber, low in calories. What makes Built Bars and puffs so good? For starters, they're all high in that protein that I talked about, every single one of them. So go to BuiltMarchMadness.com right now. Vote for your favorite bar or puff and pick up a box while you're there. You can vote every day in March, so hop in and support your pick. One more segment to go. Locked On Hornets.
This is Locked On Hornets.
And would I have liked to see a few more shards? No, I would not have.
That's awesome shards. That's awesome.
Only on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, Doug, we do have a lot of comments. We have a lot of questions. Did you want to get to the James Bouknight stuff first? Because I think the people, they want the book analysis.
People are screaming for it. People are screaming for the book. All right, so here's the deal. Bouknight had 44 points, made 11 three-pointers in a game on Saturday for the Greensboro Swarm. It was, according to Sam Purley, some of these Purley Pearls on Twitter, fourth highest single game total in Swarm franchise history. Should I run down? You want some name game here? You want to play a little name game for the other names on this list?
I would love that. I would like to guess some of them real quickly. I'm going to guess.
Go ahead, hit me. There's only three names.
Dwayne Bacon.
Oh, absolutely. He occupies three of these slots. 50. He has the highest, a 51 burger, and the second highest, the 45 burger, along with a 44 burger.
What about Malik? Did he go crazy in a game?
No.
All right, I give up. Who's the other one?
One guy is currently playing in Dallas right now. It was a sort of a fish that got away. Christian Wood with a 45-point game in January of 2017. And then Joel Berry, 44 points, March of 2020.
ACC Network's own Joel Berry now on TV. Big shout to what you did in G League. Yeah, what do you make of this
But these names all have
performance?
something in common, Walker. These names are not, now Dwayne would get a
kind of
role
across the
in
board.
and Dwayne would get, Christian was good, but
Yeah.
but it took him a long time. Like, he wasn't an immediate sort of turnaround. So I think we always have to be careful when making judgments about Greensboro's sworn performances.
Oh, 100%. Yes. The thing is, they're across the board in what they are now. All of them went to a different team in order to try to find their way in the NBA. Now, Christian Wood, got some big old contracts. So Christian Wood, absolutely a success story. And Dwayne Bacon, Steve Clifford brought him to Orlando afterwards, but Dwayne's not in the league anymore, I don't think. I think he's overseas somewhere. But regardless, just overall, James Bouknight, does he get another shot? Even with this, 44-point performance, he's been playing better, which is great for him. What I don't want to do is just throw these performances in the trash can. That's not why I'm here.
No.
It's been a rough season for Bouknight in a whole bunch of different facets. Even in the G League, the numbers in G League, Doug, were not great for a while. A lot of times you'll see a Dwayne Bacon or some players go there, and you would expect something more than what Bouknight was providing. But it's nice. At least we see this game from him where he scores 44. And so I do think that's real value. I don't think that's going to lead to him getting any playing time as we close the season out. But it does mean something that he is playing better at the end, because if you were to just continue to put up not goose eggs, but lackluster G League stats, then it doesn't give you a nice end to the season. This at least does something for you to try to get you as much as you can back in the good graces.
I think if we don't see him play, it's a pretty good indication of how this story is going to end between Bouknight and the organization, because there's a lot of talk right now around his draft mate, Kai Jones, and getting some opportunities to make mistakes, at the NBA level. At the same time, that is a little bit of an opportunity because Mark Williams is out, right? So, look, he could get an opportunity if you were to see an injury at the wing. I think it would be really easy to then plug him in at that point. But I'm not super confident that he's going to get, unless it was just, again, sort of last game of the season or the last couple of games where they decide to sit, a couple of the veterans and call it a year, and you call up a few guys from the G League. So that'd be the only way. So why are we here? I think that's important, a question to answer. Why are we here? It's easy to forget that portion of the beginning of the season because it happened like 10 years ago and 400 injuries ago when James Bouknight had a perfect opportunity to showcase your skills. And I think when you love a player, sometimes you want that player to get 2, 3, 4 shots. And in the NBA, where winning is everything, and sometimes you only get one shot, and he's had multiple shots, I think, and he hasn't taken advantage of them. And I think at some point as an organization, you have to come to terms with that. And you've seen situations where guys go on and get refocused, like Malik Monk has in Sacramento, and others that don't. But I think Bouknight's probably going to have to go be successful somewhere else.
Well, man, you want to make the comparison to some of the G League players you just mentioned. Dwayne Bacon, to me, is an excellent example of that. High expectations. I think you almost can have a damn near carbon copy of the way James Borrego was talking about Dwayne Bacon going into the season that we all had big old expectations. I think it was his sophomore campaign. And same thing with James Bouknight. James Borrego then, I remember at the luncheon at Capitol Grill, told everybody that if we have a big season, Dwayne Bacon is going to be a big part of it. So he starts, he plays like the first 13 games. I think that might be an exact correct number, something like that. And Doug is the worst offensive player in the league. And that's not an exaggeration. He was awful. I mean, he kept shooting, kept driving to the lane, missed his layups, wasn't getting fouled. So on the missed layups, he wasn't getting to the foul line, and was the worst offensive player in the league. James Borrego gave him those 13, 15 games, couldn't do it anymore. It just shows you, right? Like, you get your opportunity, you have all the backing. What happened with James Bouknight? How many games did he have? Like 15 too? It was kind of that same sample size. And I don't enjoy just putting James Bouknight down, but we have to acknowledge how awful it was. It was really, really bad.
I'll give you the numbers. Here we go.
Yeah.
In 7 games in October, he shot 29% of the field, 17 minutes per game on 7 attempts, 29% from the field. On 4+ 3-point attempts, he shot 30%, averaged about 6 points. And I think we all know his limitations defensively. In November, he averaged, again, 17 minutes per game.
How many
36.
games?
What's that?
How many games? Sorry.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 games in November,
Almost
17
20.
minutes per game, 36.9% from the field on 5 attempts, 2.4 3-point attempts, 17% from the 3-point line, only averaged 5 points a game. So the microwave scoring never came. The defensive issues were there. He committed one of the worst travels in the NBA this season, where he did a Russell Westbrook, where he just like he inbounded the ball and walked like 7 steps and just forgot to take a dribble. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously he got an opportunity. Clifford has been very vocal about this, and I think a lot of people mistake. And I've seen a few comments in the chat saying, like, he's in Clifford's doghouse. Look, he had a really embarrassing situation before the season, and Clifford stuck with him. Like, I don't think he today is in Clifford's doghouse. I think Clifford is just a realist and was like, look, I gave the guy a shot, and he didn't play well, and there were other guys like McGowan's who played better, so I'm going to play that guy.
Yeah, right. It's not, I mean, I guess if you want to say it's the doghouse, fine, but it's not because he has some personal vendetta against James Bouknight. He's watching the games and he gave Bouknight a shot. But anyways, I don't, it's not anything I enjoy. It probably just means he's going to go to a different team and we'll see what happens there. If he's able to resurrect something, fantastic. That's awesome. Still a really talented player. And if not, we'll see what happens with James Bouknight. Anything else you wanted to get to here, Doug? I know there's a lot of Bouknight comments in the chat. Is there anything else that we should address?
Chat's on fire right now. Sometimes the chat becomes a show in and of itself. Like the chat just sort of, sometimes it just separates from the show a little bit, and that's fine. I'm glad everybody's having a good time, having fun. Tony would like a shout out. Shout out, Tony. What's going on? Topo.
Okay.
Topo is what we say. We didn't say it at the beginning because we had a lot to get to. LaMelo talked. We didn't even know if he told us he was alive. We didn't know that because I haven't seen him in forever. So I'm glad to know that he still exists.
We did see him.
He is alive.
We can confirm.
Yeah. So hope to see him back on the bench pretty soon too, because he's always bringing the fire fits. Speaking of fire fits, Mark Williams, the jacket that he was wearing tonight.
Hey, the jeans too.
Like
I'm telling you. So I got to see it. I didn't know Mark had the swag like that. Mark doesn't necessarily strike me as one of the better dressers on the team. Those awards go to Terry Rozier, especially Kelly Oubre. But Mark bringing it tonight. Something serious, man. So big shout to Mark and big shout to Mark's jacket. No doubt.
Yeah, shout to Amber Topo. Shout to Trey Topo.
All the Topos,
let's see.
baby.
Brother Eden says, do the other Locked On podcasts have this much fun? That's an easy one. No, they do not.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Eden.
Amber saying if the Hornets make moves like the Panthers, future could be bright. Yeah, it's going to be, I think they got to win that number one slot.
That keeps you coming back.
That's true. They got to win that number one slot, though. I don't think there's any trading up for Wemby. They just got to win the lottery. But, right. Look, there are a lot of, and we'll talk more, by the way. I just want to tease for tomorrow. We're going to have David Walker on. He was at the game as well. Shout out, you know who you are, who hooked our guy David up to go to the game tonight. And he's going to give us some tales from Spectrum Center as well. But we're going to talk a lot of tourney because I'll just say this. I watched a lot of guys that could be, sort of in that 4 to 7 zone. Because somebody tweeted me and was like, hey, you got to prepare fans because there's a big chance that even if they have the 4th best odds, there's a chance that they draft 5, 6, or 7. It's like, buddy, I know. I've got eyeballs on this. Like, I know, and I've been a Hornets fan for a long time. I know all about going backwards in the draft. So trust me, we will have everyone prepared for that. So I'm watching all these guys that could be 4 to 7, and everyone took a bath. It's crazy. Like, we are not getting a great showcase. It doesn't mean that these guys aren't good players, obviously. In fact, I think people fall in love too much with the draft. Anyway, I'll talk about it tomorrow.
Okay.
But
so David got hooked up big time. That's awesome. I didn't know he got hooked up with some of those. Yeah, he was really well. He's in the group chat, and he was where I thought I was close. David was right there behind the Hornets, bench. So
he got a good look at it. I want a full breakdown of Mark's jacket tomorrow. From him. All right.
Also, Muggsy Bogues was seen walking that way. It takes Muggsy Bogues 15 minutes to take 10
Sitting
paces.
behind the opposing bench, though. I want to know what that's about. Why wouldn't Muggsy? And it's not that he was like, but he had the jacket. He had the Buzz City jacket. It wasn't like he was like a traitor or anything. But it's like, why are you behind the? Can we not get him behind the?
Maybe closer to the tunnel, closer to the team tunnel over there where everybody parks. That's what I'm gonna guess. I don't know. I'm just making it up.
Okay.
I mean, it is true, but I don't know if that's the reason.
Yeah. All right. A lot of book, so much book. People are very fascinated by James Bouknight. Scrolling. You see anything in here?
No, I don't see it.
That's not. Okay. Now this one is Ignorant Enlightenment, says Brandon Miller. That's all I want here in Charlotte. At this point, I think it's got to be 3 or above if you want Brandon Miller. I mean, I don't think he's going to fall to 4 if they land in the slot that they're currently projected. Although, if you look at the averages, so even if it's weird. This is how it works, but it's weird. And this is why I don't think you should be all that concerned about the odds, really, because you're talking about 2 percentage points difference between 1 through 3 and 4. And also, like, if you look at the odds and you do sort of expectation math, which Tankathon does, the average draft position for the Hornets, even though they have the 4th best odds of getting the number 1 pick, is 4.4, right? Because they have better odds of not getting 4 than they do of getting 4. It's really weird. So math, that's why I stopped taking it, because it just disappoints me. So
I'm happy I can spell
it. Brother Eden says, will you move to Charlotte, Doug, if Melo gets the max contract? If Melo will share some of it with me and have cookies and milk with me and let me like sleep in his bed, then sure.
Okay, that got real for at first it was all funny.
I'm just saying, like, I need a couch crash at least. Like, help me out. Like, I'm not made of money.
Do you think he'll be okay with you having a baby? You think that'll be okay?
I'm leaving them here.
Okay, fair enough. Doug is leaving his family. LaMelo,
I mean,
sign
it's
the
Wimby.
extension.
Come on. I mean, I'm going to be Brian Windhorse, who's just following around the number 1 pick for the rest of my life and profiting.
All right, should that do it? Are we about to go? Are we about to go to bed, or do you want to have a?
I'm going to I'm going to scroll through here and try to collect some of these for tomorrow. It should be a good show. Okay. We're going to have David on, but thanks everybody. I mean, you really got up in the chat and just had a solid debate on James Bouknight. I think we can the thing with Bouknight is I think all of us can talk. I don't think anyone's convincing anyone, right? Everyone's in their corners on Bouknight. Either you really feel like Bouknight, if just given a 5th or 6th shot, can be a great player in this league, or you've said, hey, I've seen enough and, it's time, to move on to some other. Because here's the thing, Walker, if Bryce McGowan's hadn't played well, he's hit a wall obviously now, but if he hadn't played well to start those first few games that he got an opportunity, then maybe we're sitting here and having a different conversation, right? I mean, Kai has had some flashes, as much as he's struggling right now with staying on the floor with foul trouble. Like, he's had some flashes. And all of the wings have stayed healthy, right? I mean, so much of this is about opportunity, and the Hornets have generally had most of their wing rotation or enough of it to keep an excuse to keep Bouknight down in Greensboro. So.
And that's the Bouknight combo. Yeah, lots of Bouknight combo. We will try to get to some of that. Some of the other comments and questions in the chat tomorrow. I think that's a good way to have you guys coming back. So we appreciate it. We appreciate you joining us here tonight, watching us go live. It's always a lot of fun chatting it up with everyone. And we appreciate you making us your first listen. Now make your second listen, Game to Game NBA. It's every moment. It's every top performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the NBA with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NBA, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your pods. Also, check me out, WFNZ, from 12 to 3 every weekday, and then go read Doug's Substack, Every Hornets Box Score, on everyhornetsboxscore.com. Good night. We'll see you tomorrow.